Now once again, class 12th by the same lesson, sexual reproduction in plants. Today we are going to discuss one more interesting feature in plants that is called the pollen-pistil interaction. Pollen, that is the male part, pistil, that is the female part, and interaction between these two is called the pollen-pistil interaction. It is actually post-pollination condition. It is post-pollination condition. Post-pollination, it means after the pollination. What happens? The male part develops the pollen, female part the stigma gets mature, and pollen reaches to the stigma of the female flower. When the pollen reaches to the stigma, this interaction is generated. What is the process that is going on? Let's look after that. This is the stigma style, and at the end of the style, the ovary is present. Ovary contains ovule, double integument layer is there. This is micropylene. Three cells present here, two polar bodies here, two synergic, and the egg here. Okay, the pollen reaches to the stigma. What is the pollen-pistil interaction? This is the pollen. It reaches to the stigma. So this is the process after the pollination. Now what happens? The pollen reaches to the stigma. At this time, they interact each other. Pollen and pistil interact each other. How they are interacting? By releasing a series of chemicals. What happens? When pollen reaches to stigma, interaction between pollen and pistil begins by a series of chemicals. These chemicals are released in a series, and due to that, the pistil is able to read the nature of the pollen. What they have to reach? Actually, the pistil has to recognize that whether the pollen is right or pollen is not right, it's wrong. This interaction allows the pistil to recognize the correct type of pollen. This interaction allows the pistil to recognize that whether the pollen is right or not. This interaction allows the pistil to recognize whether the pollen is right or not. Now, what is the meaning of the right pollen? Right pollen, it means it belongs to same species. Right type of pollen means it belongs to same species. And what is the meaning of wrong type of pollen? Wrong type of pollen. First, If it is wrong type of pollen, it means it does not belong to same species. Means it does not belong to same species. It means it may be the pollen of some other plant. First condition and second condition, or self incompatible, self incompatible, or self incompatible. The two conditions decide whether the pollen is right or wrong. If pistil is recognized that pollen is right, then what happens? If pollen is wrong, pistil rejects the wrong type of pollen. Okay, pistil rejects the wrong type of pollen. Wrong type of pollen. Okay. Then, if pistil recognize the pollen is right, okay, if the pistil recognize that pollen is right, it allows to germinate the pollen tube. Pistil allow to germinate pollen tube if pollen is right. Again, the right means pollen is right. Again, the right means it belongs to same species. If pollen is right, then pistil allow it to germinate the pollen tube. Okay, this pollen, maybe it is a right type of pollen. Then what happens? This pistil allow it to germinate the pollen tube. Pollen tube is formed like this. This is the pollen tube. The male gamete here divides to form two male gametes. Two male gametes is formed because of the mitotic division. What happened? A single male gamete, they divided to form two male gametes, two male nucleus by mitotic division. Okay, this pollen reaches to microphyllary end. This happens only when the pistil allows to germinate the pollen tube. If it is not allowed to germinate the pollen tube, then the pollen interaction is completed and wrong pollen is not allowed to germinate the pollen tube. Hence, the pollen tube is germinated because only the right pollen is there. This is the fourth pollination event. Okay, it is the fourth pollination event. Fourth pollination event. Okay, after pollination, this process is going on. Now, what happens if the pollen tube is developed? Pollen tube reaches to the microphyllary end of the female nucleus. When it reaches to the microphyllary end, it is guided by fully formed apparatus. I am going to rub this. Now, what happens when pollen tube, the pistil allows the right type of pollen to develop the pollen tube. The pollen tube develops and the main nucleus which is present in the pollen, it starts traveling with the pollen tube. The main nucleus before reaches to female nucleus, firstly mitotically divides to form two male nucleuses. Okay, two male nucleuses form and the male nucleus reach to the female part. Now, recognize this part. This contains this is only the lower part of the this is synergid This is egg cell, and this is the fully formed apparatus. Fully formed apparatus. This is the detailed structure of this part. Synergid, eggshell, and the fully formed apparatus. This fully formed apparatus allow the pollen tube to insert inside the female nucleus. This is the pollen tube insert inside the female nucleus. And what is going on here? That is called the fertilization. That is a separate topic. Then what happens? The pollen tube develops and reach up to the female nucleus. Pollen tube develops and reached up to female nucleus. Female nucleus. And when it reaches to the female nucleus, it is guided by fully formed apparatus. It is guided by what is pollen tube? What it is? Pollen tube. Pollen tube is guided by fully formed apparatus present in synergid to reach up to female nucleus. To reach up to female nucleus. Female nucleus. This is the pollen-pistil interaction. All these are the part of the pollen-pistil interaction. So what happens in pollen-pistil interaction? Pollen reaches to the stigma, that is the pollination. After pollination, this event occurs. The series of chemicals are released here, and then the pistil is capable to reach whether the pollen is of right type or the wrong type. If it is wrong type, it will reject it. But if it is right type, it allows to develop the pollen, and through which the male nucleus reaches to the female